Hi everyone, MJ here. How's it going? All right. Nice to see you all. We're broadcasting on 4 platforms. We have Facebook. Over here is Periscope. Behind me is YouTube and also Twitch. And I just want to come on. I know I'm not on at this time usually, but we have some bad news today. And I'm wearing my mask because I really want to emphasize how important it is. I don't care what your political leaders are saying. I don't care what your medical leaders are saying. Wear a mask. It makes a huge difference. Today, our streak ran out. Taiwan, breaking news. It's all over the news. 235 days, and now we got local infection because somebody traveled around without a mask. Many of you know that outside of Taiwan, there's outbreaks all over the world. There's some new strains, but we here on this island have been pretty good. We have a commander. His name is Mr. Chen. Hey, Dave, fist bump to you. Chen Sezong. And he is a tireless 67-year-old viral warrior. This guy is incredible. But he can't do anything if people don't follow the rules or some circumstances happen that it's a matter of time. It's just imperfection, and nobody's perfect, and sometimes people do things stupid, or sometimes people make bad decisions, and often the result is the same. So let me just show you the report. Let's just get right into it. Here it is. This is the bad news. Now this is Commander Chen I just spoke about. I'm going to put this in the center of the screen to make it easier to read. Yeah, J-boy, it will be. It will be. So here's the headlines. Coronavirus. Taiwan reports first domestic case of COVID-19 in 253 days. What did I say, 35? Oh, I hope they had the title right. 253 days. I mean, that's astonishing. And life pretty much goes on normal here. You know, my daughter goes to school. When she came back from winter break at the beginning of this year, in February, she wore a mask every day. She wears a mask on the bus. There's no talking on the bus, and they have these precautions in place, but they're there for a reason. But it says a contact. This is a story of a New Zealand pilot. Well, yeah. Hey, Jeff. Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I'm American. I'm from America. I know what you're talking about. But what it is in all honesty and all fairness, the United States has never had to face anything like this in collective memory. So, like I pointed out before, that no disaster movies are made in Taiwan because we live disasters every day with, entire villages being washed away in a typhoon off a mountainside, and, the earth opening up and all that kind of stuff. But all those movies are made in America because those things don't happen there. So even the movies like Contagion and Virus, they're from America because they don't have to worry about those things. But it says here, the news report says the contact of a New Zealand pilot who was diagnosed with COVID-19 on Saturday, has tested positive for the coronavirus, the first domestic case reported in Taiwan since April 12th, the Central Epidemic Command Center said Tuesday. And yes, folks, there is a Central Epidemic Command Center in Taiwan, and if you don't have one, you need to press your local authorities to get one. Now I'm going to take a sip off my coffee. I'm all pumped up on Indonesian coffee here today. Not too happy about this. All right, let's move on. The next graphic that I want to show you is this. It says Taiwan Central Epidemic Command Center on Sunday announced that they believe a cluster infection of 3 pilots originated from a pilot from New Zealand who traveled around northern Taiwan while infectious from December 8th to the 11th. So this goes back to the beginning, of December. During a press conference on Saturday, the Central Epidemic Command Center spokesman Zhuang, and that's Jen Huang, announced that a cluster of infected cargo plane pilots is believed to have started from a male pilot in his 60s from New Zealand, and his case number is 765. The CECC believes he infected case number 760, a female Taiwanese pilot in her 30s, and case number 766, a male Japanese pilot in his 20s. Now, it's interesting how this happened because they were flying together. As the two male pilots have been listed as close contacts, they were also tested that day. On December 20th, the Kiwi pilot, that's the New Zealand pilot obviously, was officially diagnosed with COVID-19 with a higher CT value indicating a weak positive result. Now, I underlined this with my finger on my phone, so that don't worry about it, but I'm going to get to this. This is at the time of the press conference, 89 contacts of the cluster had been identified and 54 had undergone testing. Now, that's why there's a central epidemic command center. Those guys went into action and they used the police, they used whatever resources that they need to do the contact tracing to get all this stuff done for, I guess it's over here, all this stuff done that we're talking about. They need to track these people down. Now, as reported by Taiwan News, the Kiwi man did not wear a face covering for the duration of the flight with the co-pilots. However, they both were masked. That is, the two co-pilots were masked. Trong noted at the press conference that, now this is underlined, face coverings are commonly worn in both Taiwan and Japan, but it's not a cultural norm in New Zealand. So what? Is COVID-19 a cultural norm? Now's not the time to be worried about cultural norms. Now's the time to get busy. Oh. As of Sunday local time, the CECC was investigating when the man contracted the virus and whether he was presenting symptoms of December 12th, the day the three pilots flew to the U.S. The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Business, Innovation, and Employment have been contacted for comment. So this is, I mean, Taiwan takes this stuff really seriously, and that's why we've had such a long run with no local transmission. And just to give you an idea of how seriously they take it, so I know, I am making a point, and I'm doing this, which kind of violates the protocol. But, you know, I'm in my home. I'm just gonna make this point. I hear people in primarily in the United States, you know, they refer to it as a cold. It's a survivable cold. Yeah, okay. It's a survivable cold for everybody who didn't die. Yeah, and so people are, there's so many theories about, you know, the government's trying to take over and so forth. And, you know, maybe they are, but I'm going to wear a mask. And not because the government told me. I'm going to wear it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, people are saying it's a hoax. Okay. Well, Taiwan knows it's not a hoax, but we only have 7 deaths, and it's because we've been through this before. This is not Taiwan's first rodeo. In fact, I've talked about this before, previously on late night shows, that many scientists are now starting to realize that perhaps Taiwanese have some kind of immunity to COVID-19 because we've been exposed to so many coronaviruses. I mean, it's, you know, it's 80 miles, according to one of these articles, you know, 140, 130 kilometers, you know, it's a boat ride, and an F-16 at full bore, it's 6 minutes from here to the China coast. And so there's fishing boats here, there's all kinds of things. We've had a heck of a time keeping smugglers out of here because the whole West Coast is vulnerable to that, you know. Taiwan was rabies-free for 50 years, certified rabies-free. This is the only country in the world at the time that you could ship an animal anywhere in the world without rabies testing. Not anymore because of smuggling. And sometimes some people, I don't know, I'm not making this charge, but some people say that China purposely does things like this to screw with Taiwan, that they might come and release rabid animals, or they might try to release coronavirus here. And I think, you know, if that's what they're saying is true, the powers that be on the other side of the Taiwan Strait must be mad that it hasn't it hasn't worked. Yeah, we do. We do. And actually, there was an article about her today, how they called her the COVID leader. So, and she's tough. But the other thing too is Taiwanese are obedient, and some people can say, well, that's a sheeple, But you know something? Sometimes being a wolf doesn't work, and we see this wolf warrior diplomacy going on. Sometimes you have to say, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to wear my mask and I'm going to practice social distancing and all this. And I mean, how many COVID parties happened? There weren't any COVID parties in Taiwan. We've had 7 deaths because nobody's stupid enough to do that. That's crazy. But let me show you just how serious Taiwan takes this. Now, people don't believe this. They think I made this up. Look at this headline. This is from CNN Travel. You can look this up, okay? This is not Taiwan news. This is CNN Travel. Man fined $3,500 for breaking Taiwan coronavirus quarantine for 8 seconds. Here's the headline. Taiwanese authorities have slapped a $3,500 fine on a man who broke quarantine regulations for just 8 seconds. The man, a migrant worker from the Philippines, was quarantining in a hotel in Kaohsiung City when he briefly stepped out of his room into the hallway. The city's Department of Health told Taiwan's official central news agency. So he stepped out in the hallway. Sorry, that's breaking quarantine. And this is why. This is why we have had such a long run, because we take these things seriously. And you'll notice the guy who broke the quarantine was a Philippine worker. Now, nothing against them, but he's not Taiwanese. He doesn't live here. He's just a migrant worker. So, generally speaking, of course, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, the Taiwanese don't do so many things like that. There are some, it's always the same. There are some rich people that think it doesn't apply to them. And so, yeah, they don't want to stay in quarantine, and they end up paying a big price for it. But I have some friends from the States. They went back during the summer because the husband's married couple. The husband's mother required some special care and had to go back to the United States and arrange it all. Had to arrange it in person. And they came back to Taiwan, and they went to the airport. The first thing they did was they checked them out, and then they made them download an app on their mobile phone. Okay? Required them to download this app. It's a tracking app. And so, Mark, how you doing? Fist bump to you. Nice to see you. And so, by that tracking app, they were able to tell, that is, the authorities were able to tell whether or not they stayed home, which is important. And what happened was, because the phone's inside, it doesn't get a GPS signal. It relies on location services from the Wi-Fi network. Therefore, they kept jumping around. They said they watched themselves jump around on the map, and every time it looked like they went down the street, the police were there within 10 minutes. They're out in the front, and the police aren't going to go inside the house. They get on the microphone, the PA system, and they say really loud in Chinese your name, and you should be home. Are you home? And then, you look out the window, and well, thanks, Jane. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Welcome to Taiwan Live TV. And we do have a companion website that has a little bit more information about what we do. I'm a private individual. I've lived in Taiwan for 16 years, so I'm not what you would call an authoritative news, source. But I've been here a long time, and I understand how things work here. And that being said, what I'd like to do is make sure that everybody has our email address here. And if you look at the bottom, you can see Taiwan. As you can see, the domain is Taiwan Live TV, but it's late night at Taiwan Live TV. That is our email. You can send me an email, contact me directly, about anything that I've talked about or whatever. You can even tell me if you don't like the show, whatever. So no fines in the USA. Now this is interesting. Just as I go to a pizza shop, the workers are not wearing masks now. Wow. Even though it's mandated. Crazy. I told them to keep the pizza they made. Good for you. That's how you get them. You get them with the economic sanctions. Because, the other thing, I talked about this a few weeks ago when this came out, but Taiwan recently released new guidelines, okay? These are the guidelines for the 8 different categories. Bernardo, fist bump to you. Welcome from Germany. These are the 8 different categories that were now required to wear masks. And technically, Win-Win's place, you know, the karaoke place and the barbecue place that I go down the street and eat at, technically people should be wearing masks there. But all schools, that would be all centers of education. Let's see, this is really small. Medical facilities. I got to look at this. Shopping malls. Okay, they called it. The thing is, it was translated into English from Chinese, and it said places of consumption. But what they mean is places of consumerism. So in other words, stores. Okay, and let's see. That's okay. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so first of all, it's medical services. You go to the hospital, you go to your doctors. I see a doctor every month to get my arrhythmia medication, mask, and went to a restaurant today with my wife. Went to a tea shop. Have to wear a mask, and we go inside and they spray our hands and they take the temperature. The second thing is transportation. You go to the high-speed rail, bus, regular train, any form of transportation. You got to wear a mask. They can refuse you if you don't. So then shopping malls, okay, department stores, things like that, okay. Then education. Now that includes private educational institutions like where my daughter takes piano lessons, the Yamaha school. I show up at the Yamaha school without a mask and they won't let you in. And the reason I know is because I forgot my mask one day. And I walked up and they said, you can't go in without a mask. I'm like, oh, I forgot, it's in the car, I got to walk all the way back, so. AG says, wife grew up in Taiwan, yeah. Live in Canada, Vancouver, yeah. It's a cool place, there are a lot of Taiwanese there, yeah. Signing candidates, too individualistic and and low trust to implement effective measures. Taiwan is a role model. Yes, it is. But actually, Taiwanese are a role model. I'm guessing, AG, that your wife probably does wear a mask. And she probably doesn't do those dumb things, even though she's Canadian now, see? Sorry, I keep looking at this thing because my hair is getting so long, it looks wild and crazy. I'm living on the edge. Sorry about that. Now I'm just going to forget about it. Yeah, so, I mean, before this whole mess started, at the beginning of my daughter's winter break, the last week, or I think I'm going to say January 21st. Anyway, the long story short is the end of January to the beginning of February, we went to Thailand. And this was at the beginning when we started hearing reports of things from Wuhan, because we heard stuff here in Taiwan considerably earlier than other parts of the world, because the CECC, they sent experts to Wuhan in December. So that's why the Taiwanese were way ahead, and they just locked it down from that point. But when we went to when we went to Thailand, we just took a regular stock of masks that we have at home. We have boxes of masks, so it's a normal thing for us. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like or where you're from. It only matters what kind of a person you are, right? So, yeah. So, good for her. Tell her she's doing the right thing. I appreciate your comment, AG, and also Jeff. So, the places of education, even private lessons, private schools, Sue, me, how are you? Oh, long time no see. How are things where you live, Sue? This is a bad day for us here in Taiwan. Okay, point number 5, expos. That means like movie theaters, music venues. It says gymnasiums, things like that. Okay, that's excellent. Good to hear that, Sue. It's been a long time since we talked, and I hope things are okay with your family. Exhibition halls, so like about March next year, we're going to have the Taipei Cycle Show. I'm guessing they're probably not going to do that, but it depends on the vaccine. And in Taiwan, we have 2 vaccine choices. The country has allocated enough financial resources to buy vaccines from 2 different sources. It's really cool, and so you can choose which one that you want. And I'm over a certain age, so I'm going to get a discount on that. That's good. So so there's expos. Now, the next one is entertainment and leisure. That says, gosh, this is really small. Cruise ships, clubs, bars, nightclubs, MTVs, KTVs, hair salon, massage houses, bowling alleys and billiard rooms. Now, let me talk about this for a second, because you guys are saying, no, KTV and MTV, what are those? Those are music video places and karaoke places. And they have what they call in Taiwan hostess bars, because traditionally for years, drinking, that is men drinking, in the company of women to whom they are not married, is a common cultural thing here. And so a lot of these places have what they call karaoke girls, and they're in close proximity, and there's a lot of cigarette smoke, and they're not supposed to be smoking, but they do. And it's very close quarters, and you could have, you know, maybe 10 people, you know, you might have, you know, 5 men and 5 women, and they're in close proximity for usually 2 hours a session, and they're singing and drinking and doing all kinds of stuff, and bam, you can get a cluster. So, but I doubt people are going to be wearing masks. I really don't think so, because they're going to be drinking and smoking. And while I said Taiwanese are obedient in public, but in private it's a little different situation. And it's hard because we don't have, until today, the local transmission. People don't have the fear. I can't imagine what it must be like living in the United States right now, knowing that every time you go out, you run the risk of getting an infection. That's got to be horrible. That's got to take a tremendous mental toll, you know? And on top of everything else that's going on, all the legal challenges that are going on with the recent election, I mean, all this stress together and the uncertainty has got to be just unbearable. And I'm going to tell you something. My heart goes out to you American brothers, because, you know, that's not a good situation. And so we don't have the fear of the local transmission. So we wear masks as a matter of course, you know, yes it is. As a matter of course, as a matter of habit. But we don't want to be complacent about it, because sometimes what I find myself doing is, oh man, I didn't spray my hands. I carry in my man bag, because I carry a man bag. I got battery chargers and all kinds of stuff in there, right? But I have a bottle of 95% alcohol. I don't have that wimpy 75%, man. I got like 95%. And I spray my hands. I spray the table. My wife carries alcohol wipes. You know, they're usually like in a pack, like baby wipes, you know. And clean the table, and clean the edges of the table too. Don't ever forget that. Many people forget to clean the edges of the table that you're sitting in front of. All right, so it's entertainment values, and then it says religious places. Now, I saw in the United States a couple of days ago, some religious leaders were saying that there was, what do they call it, a victory for religious freedom in the United States, because they're allowed to defy corona restrictions. Well, that's not what I call a victory for religious freedom. Yeah, okay, well, it's the voice of experience. That's all, AG, it's the only reason I know about that. That's not, I mean, being able to practice, being able to tell others or preach to others or not, you know, freedom of, freedom from. That's what religious freedom is. Not that you can defy the law and make a super spreader event. I just think, what I think is, personally, I think that any religious leader who advocates that is actually going against the secular authorities, which is wrong. So, yeah, just been to KTV, so you know what I'm talking about. So, Mark is, you too. Oh, see, you agree I need a haircut. Okay, yeah. So yeah. Sorry about the joke there. But he says, so it's okay. Right, a visit to barber is required. Right, the one I go to, and this is going to be great. I can tell already. Only allows for appointment bookings. Good. One person to shop at a time. Masks on. Excellent. Still a risk though. Yeah. The risk is he's going and he cuts the string and your mask falls off. But and then you're walking around holding it on like that. So you should always have, you know, a separate spare mask. In Taiwan we have mask holders. I don't have any of that stuff with me to show you, but you know, I have showed this on previous late night shows, and on the next one I can show you some of these things. And I sent one to I sent some stuff to one of my viewers in in the States to Hootoo's Tea. I sent her some mask holders and mask minders. Those are things like when you see, the problem is you take your mask off, what do you do with it? It could be infected. So you have to be careful. So that we make little protective holders that can hold the mask, and you can fold it and put it in your bag, and then it contains whatever's there. So, okay. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Fist bump to you. I give all the ladies fist bumps too, because yeah, they like to fist bump too. Okay, so here we go. Entertainment and leisure, religious places, and it says others. And what does it say? It says, oh yeah, banks, insurance companies, stock exchange firms, electricity companies, cable service. So you go to pay your electric bill or your cable TV bill, or you have to go into like a courthouse or any of those places. So basically, any public building, okay, any public building, you gotta, gotta do this stuff. You gotta wear the, the mask in these 8 different categories. And that's why Taiwan has had such a long run. But all it takes is one person. That's all it takes. It just takes one person. 253 days we've had without a domestic case, and this was announced today, December the 22nd. The local time here in Taiwan is 16:15, so that's 4:15 in the afternoon, which makes that 2:15 a.m. Eastern time in the United States. So I know this is a weird time for me to be on, and I appreciate so many people viewing, but this is critical for us for Taiwan. I'm going to tell you the last little, the last, yeah, I know, the last. I'm going to tell you the last little irony of this whole thing. Jeff, you're going to love this. There is a watch list of countries by risk. In other words, the country with the least risk is at the top, and then going down, and of course, the other countries are just, many countries are towards the bottom. Taiwan is number 2, not number 1. I was very surprised to find that out, and I read that today, because Taiwan has had this 253-day streak, which is the longest streak of any country during this particular pandemic. So no other country has gone so long without documented local transmission. And it was broken by a pilot from New Zealand. And guess what country is number 1 on the list? That's right, New Zealand. I just found that ironic. Because, New Zealand is a country of islands. And so they can do a lockdown. And, islands do have an advantage sometimes. That's why the islands, for example, of Palau has no local transmission. Because they're not letting anybody in. It's like, don't come here, okay? And so I just found that last little bit extremely ironic, that Taiwan's streak was broken by somebody from New Zealand who happens to be from a country that's the top on the list. So, well, I understand. The guy's 60 years old, okay, and I can relate to that because I'm over 60, but old and set in your ways, fine. But the guy's a pilot, which means he's technologically proficient and he's learning, getting training all the time. This is your average 60-year-old guy with a walker or something like that. This is a professional person, and there are new aircraft, there's new software, there's new procedures all the time introduced in that industry, and these people have to step up. So wearing a mask is not that big of an addition to whatever else, checklist. They got, okay, well, I got to check the pneumatic system, I got to check the electrical system, I got to check all this stuff. Mask, okay, there you go. That's the easy one, but they didn't do it. So it may just be a cultural thing. But notice this. The Taiwanese pilot, the female Taiwanese pilot, and the male Japanese pilot were masked, and they still got it. Now, we don't know for sure if they got it, but I'm kind of guessing that being locked up with somebody in an aluminum pressurized tube for several hours is probably a pretty good way to get infected. You wear a mask and it helps, but studies show that it really only works when both people wear them, okay? And so that's all the news we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the comments, and you can send me an email to latenight@taiwanlive.tv. And thank you so much for joining. I wish I had some good news. I'll be on later this week. My usual time is I usually broadcast on Thursday night, Taiwan time. And so we'll see you guys, and maybe I'll have some good news for you. I'm not sure, but we can always play around in the studio. Nothing like a little analog stuff here to play with. So, Coco, how are you? Wow, we miss you. Good to see you. Yeah, thank you so much, Coco. And you know, you've known for all this time, because you know, I know you follow what's going on with with us here in Taiwan, and so now I was really surprised that I had to report this today. I mean, I figured it would come sometime, because people are going to make a mistake. There's going to be things that happen, but anyway, nice to see you, Coco. Thanks for joining. Thanks, AG, Sumi, Mark, Jeff, Bernardo, J-Boy, everybody. I'm sorry if I missed you, but thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. And here it comes. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you. Oh, yeah. AG, thank you. I'm one of the few foreigners in Taiwan that actually has done national level talk radio. In the United States, I had a talk show on the Talk America Radio Network. And so usually the foreigners that come to Taiwan to do these kinds of jobs actually didn't do those kinds of jobs before. Like so many foreigners open restaurants. They never opened a restaurant before. They teach English. They never taught English before. They go on the radio. So you're right. Sometimes, I call ICRT. I can't really tell because I don't know what the heck they're doing up there. But I've heard some newsreaders. A guy can't even get through a sentence without messing it up. So thank you. Take care, J-Boy. Okay, now we're really going to go. Thanks. Bye-bye. Take care. That was great. Thank you.